Isekai, you know, the one genre where a character from one world goes to another world? The one that's maybe probably just a little bit overdone. Yeah, it's overdone. It could be any world with all kinds of crazy shit. But no, fuck being creative, let's throw one more elf in there and call it a day. It's always in the same medieval European setting with the same tropes we've seen a gazillion times before. You know, it's funny to think that the genre that literally means another world never really focuses on that world and making it actually interesting, but instead focuses on trying to make the protagonist as cool as possible by following the overused storyline of loser goes to Europe and then becomes not loser and gets overpowered abilities so that he can defeat the bad guys, get 5 girlfriends, and be awesome. And yeah, I do get the appeal, and I've indulged in some of those shows myself, but there comes a point where you have to stop milking the same cow over and over again because it's old, it's repetitive, and I get tired of hearing the words Adventures Guild or Demon Lord. So when Jobless Reincarnation came out, I didn't think anything of it because at face value it didn't look like it did anything differently from your average isekai. It's set in medieval Europe, it has all the same tropes we see in other isekai. The protagonist is a loser and gets 1, 2, 3 girlfriends. But then I started watching it, and the longer I watched, the more invested I became. It wasn't trying to wow me with powers or trying to show how cool it could be. It was just a good story being played out like no one was watching. The characters are down to earth and relatable. The world is so meticulously well built and thought out that it left me with this sense of adventure and immersion. For the first time in a while, I was actually enjoying an isekai for the reason I loved isekai in the first place. An escape into another world. The story follows Rudius, who is this jobless bum in his mid-30s. From the result of bullying, lack of support, and self-depreciation, he becomes a shut-in, incapable of leaving his room, in which all he does is play video games, watch anime, and fap to hentai. He's completely aware of how depressing his situation is and wants to change, but struggles to find the motivation to get out of his slump because no one cares about him, no one loves him, so he doesn't put in the effort to change because he doesn't matter to anyone. After getting kicked out by his own family, he then wanders around and sees a truck driving towards a group of high schoolers and then he reincarnates in the mysterious land of Europe with all his memories from his past life. But in this life, he has something that he never had in his last. A family that loves him, people that care about him, and a chance to redeem himself. He finally finds that motivation to be a better person and decides to himself that this time will be different. This time, he won't die unaccomplished and full of regret. This time, he will seriously try to live a life that he can be proud of.
こんな俺でも、無職の引きこもりでクズな俺でも、人生をやり直すことが、本気で生きていくことが。
And this is why I like this. It's not a generic power fantasy where an overpowered guy goes around kicking ass and getting girls. It's just a grounded story about a guy who is given a second chance to live a better life. We see Rudius, who is this low life of society, somebody who has fallen so low that when he's finally given a second chance, he does a complete 180 in the opposite direction. Instead of lying around and doing stupid kid stuff like crying and pooping, he starts putting time and effort into working out, learning magic, and all kinds of shit. He becomes overpowered, but not for the sake of showing off amazing powers to all the little kiddies out there, but because he worked for it. Something that a lot of isekai protagonists fail to do. Listen, being overpowered in a world because you're level 100 in a video game is just stupid. It's unrealistic, just like those titties. But being overpowered because you did nothing but work your ass off from a young age, now that's something that I can get behind. Now I'm not saying that isekai should be realistic, but what I am saying is that for me personally, I prefer a story that slowly builds up to the good stuff rather than a story that just skips right to the good stuff. It's because I get to see Rudius slowly learn things that when he does something significant, that moment just has so much more of an impact on me than if he was already able to do that from the start. Watching this just brings back that charm of an isekai, the charm of being in a foreign world with numerous possibilities, the charm of watching the protagonist have to learn and explore things for the first time. And it's just so refreshing. It's like, is this what hope feels like? Does isekai really have a chance? Watching this makes me proud to be an isekai fan. It's an isekai that doesn't rely on the power fantasy element to keep me watching, but instead relies more on actually immersing me into its story, world, and characters. And what I quickly noticed about this show was how well done everything is. The characters are really good. They're lovable, charismatic, and really well written. But most importantly, they're human. They're grounded, relatable, flawed, and really horny. Rudius is horny. His mom and dad are horny. His mate is secretly horny. His magic tutor is also secretly horny, but in plain sight. People are horny, and that's normal. Did that guy just tell an 8-year-old to use protection? The point I'm making is the characters are extremely human. They can be horny, they can struggle with things, and they can also do some pretty fucking shitty things. Like, Rudius is a fucking creepy scumbag. He does a significant amount of disgusting and deplorable shit that revolves around him being a 40-year-old man in a kid's body, positioning himself to be with these younger girls in the future, and that put off a lot of people, including myself. So much so that I'm not even going to try to defend this guy. Watching some of the shit this guy pulls is just like, no, don't you dare fucking do it. I swear to fucking God, fuck! You piece of fucking shit! He's a creepy piece of shit. He's a pedo. He's a groomer. But before you grab your pitchforks and start canceling him, hear me out. Rudius is a scumbag. He's a degenerate, and you shouldn't overlook what he does. In fact, I don't think you're supposed to. But what I do think is that you don't necessarily have to like or support him or his actions to recognize that this part of him isn't some kind of gimmick trying to add a sort of uniqueness or shock value to his character, but is rather just a crucial part in the telling of this story as a whole. Rudius was bullied when he was younger, bullied to the point of shutting himself into becoming the person he became. His whole life was wasted away in anime, hentai, and games because he was too traumatized to do anything else. He struggled to go outside in his old world, and he still struggles to go outside in this one. He was a creepy dude in his old world, and he's still a creepy dude in this one. He has PTSD, he has struggles, he has flaws, and coming into this new world doesn't instantly change that. He's not your perfect white knight of an isekai protagonist that starts nonchalantly living his life and aces through everything. He's a guy who can be vulnerable, a guy that struggles, a really creepy guy that treats girls as if he would in light novel games because that's the only social interaction with girls he ever got. But it's because his past life isn't just swept under the rug and forgotten about that it's instead playing the active role of developing him as a character. Because he remembers what he was like before, it motivates him to be better. And throughout the time he spent building relationships or learning how to do things in this new world, he's also slowly learning how to be a good person. He does some really deplorable things that make me want to gouge my eyes out, but at the same time, I find it almost impossible to hate him because he's earnestly trying to become a better person. What he does isn't being done at random. It's not done to shock. It's not done for fan service. It's done to show that even somebody who's scummy, somebody who's despicable, somebody who's fallen so low that they can't possibly fall any further could be a better person if they really tried. And it's not just him either. Each of the characters and their actions always serve for the purpose of building or adding to the story in some way. They're not so much there to just exist as your typical character tropes or archetypes, but more so are there to exist as such because they have a reason to. Take a look at Paul, Rudius's dad. He's a talented knight who was raised in a noble family and has girls falling all over him, which eventually leads him to do some pretty shitty things that catch you off guard. But since you're given so much insight on his background and upbringing that although no, it doesn't justify what he does, it at least makes it completely understandable. He's not doing the things he does for no reason whatsoever. There's always a reason behind it. And then we have Roxy. She's responsible for teaching Rudius magic. And then we have Sophie. She makes the story go in the direction it's going. And then we have Eris. She's kind of a bitch. She's a tsundere. She's physically abusive, bratty, and has an upside down V for a mouth. And even she has a reason why she's a tsundere. She was raised in a rich, noble family which made her become the spoiled, physically abusive brat she is. She doesn't exist as the abusive tsundere archetype just because there's an actual reason to why she acts like a tsundere. I can't believe it. I never thought I'd see the day, but Tsunderes have reasons to be tsunderes now! It's because the foundations of these characters have been so well built that whenever one of them act a certain way or do something unexpected, it never feels out of place or uncalled for because there's always a valid reason being acted upon. Time and effort has been put into making these characters as real and believable as possible, and it really shines through as you're watching. They all have depth, they all think for themselves, and they all feel like living and breathing parts of this world. Jobless Reincarnation is often regarded as the grandfather of Isekai because it's allegedly the Isekai that inspired many other Isekai we see today, and I can definitely see why it's regarded as such. It's special, not because it's different or unique, but because it's just so well written. The first few episodes might feel a bit slow, almost like a slice of life as we watch Rudy slowly learn and explore things about this world, but it's never boring because the world is actually good. You can really see the amount of effort and care that has been put into building and making this world as intricately detailed as possible. Fun fact, people become adults at age 15. Also, it's normal to sell sexual enhancing drugs to kids. Things that might be abnormal in our world are completely normal here. You know, it's kind of like a whole nother world. There's magic, but it's not just magic. There's several types of magic and a system to how it works. There's sword fighting, but it's not just sword fighting. There are different sword styles and ranks. Details, so many goddamn details, the list goes on and on. But it's all these little details that lose you in this immersive, otherworldly experience and make this isekai actually feel like an isekai. The way everything is presented really immerses you into its world. I never once talked about production in my videos, but here I am. The art and animation are visually stunning. I mean, just look how fluid this is. Wait, what's that? A dragon that isn't CG? Holy shit! And the music is just... The art and music really help bring this incredibly detailed world to life by creating an atmosphere that I can only describe as isekai. It looks like an isekai, feels like an isekai, and sounds like an isekai. And combine that with the story, world, and characters, you'll be left with one of the best isekai experiences you will ever get. I mean, sure, there might be other good isekai out there, but this one definitely feels the most isekai. But wait, it gets even better. Despite the slow, lighthearted vibes of the first few episodes, later on there are plenty of twists and turns that keep the show fresh. The world isn't afraid to show its face, and things can get nitty-gritty really quickly. It's a realistically grim world where people die, people get hurt, and one wrong decision could be fatal. It constantly keeps you on the edge of your seat in suspense, whereas anything could happen at any time. This thrilling adventure through the constant twists and turns drove the hook that already hooked me on the show even further than ever before. It can be unpredictable, it can be dark, and that's believable because it's just real. And that's what makes this show so special. It's vast, it's diverse, and it has a crazy amount of information and details, but it never feels overwhelming because it's grounded. It's a perfect mix of realism and fantasy mumbo jumbo that I can't get enough of. Jobless Reincarnation reminded me why I love this genre and showed just how good isekai can be. Despite only having 11 episodes so far, it managed to deeply root itself as probably one of the best isekais I've ever watched. It's done so much, but also still has so much left to do, and I can't wait for the second half that's coming this fall. This for me is peak isekai. It has everything I want from an isekai. Lovable and complex characters, an immersive world that sucks you in, and a compelling story that wasn't only deep, interesting, and grounded, but also resonated with me on a personal level. It inspired me to work harder, to improve, to be a better person, showing me that if this guy can do it, then maybe I can do it too. Hey everyone who made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for sitting through my shit. Thank you for sitting through my long ass video about me just spewing shit and talking about an anime that I really like. But yeah. But if you enjoyed this video, then please like and comment. I reply to those, and also it makes me really happy whenever I see a comment because it means that people are actually watching my videos, and it's just nice. It's nice. I like comments, okay? I like them. But anyways, just yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!